We're living in a time that is allowing many of us new learning opportunities, some that we welcome and some that we'd rather not experience. Certainly this COVID pandemic is one of those things we'd rather not be experiencing during our lifetime. But like so many other times, when we find ourselves saying, "Why, God?" He gently reminds us of that verse found in Romans 8:28. We know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. These days, with COVID causing so many complications, some leading to death, and others leading to extended illnesses and weaknesses that prevent one from doing just the basic things we've always taken for granted, such as walking to the mailbox without having to stop to get our breath, or doing more than a daily chore or two without having expended all the energy we have for the entire day. We find ourselves being caregivers in a way we didn't anticipate, and we are taking on new responsibilities, such as caring for a loved one at home rather than allowing them to be in a nursing home, because in nursing homes a lot of people are not allowed to even have family members visit at this time. Or we're taking on new chores around the house as our loved one is too ill to be able to do it any longer. But whatever the situation is, many people are finding themselves in a role they never anticipated, and they feel very ill-equipped to handle. If you are in this situation, my hope is that I can share a few things I've learned as I've worked as a hospice chaplain for these many years now. Caregiving is never easy. Even with all the love we have and all the determination we have, we will find it overwhelming at times. We may wonder how we ever thought we could do this, or even if we should have tried. And one of the first things I want to share with you is these feelings are very normal. I have yet to meet someone who didn't have days where they felt this is more than they could handle. And that includes even those who have worked in the healthcare system for many years, maybe as a nurse, and they have felt confident in their ability to care for others. But they discover when it's their own loved one they're taking care of, it's a whole new ballgame. It's one thing, for example, to be a nurse taking care of a patient, but it's another thing to be a daughter taking care of a parent. It's one thing to be, for example, a pastor's wife who has sat beside many a bedside, offering prayer and encouragement to a church member or a church member's loved one. It's another thing to now be the wife, sitting beside the bed of her spouse, feeling helpless and fearful. It is very normal to feel overwhelmed and weak. The second thing I want to share with you is this. This is more than you can handle alone. It really is. Now sometimes hospice will come in. Hospice doesn't mean your loved one is necessarily going to die today or tomorrow, next week, next month, even next year. As we all know, only God continues to be all-knowing, and our time and that of our loved one is in His hands, and that is the very best place we can be. What it does mean when hospice comes in is that at this time your loved one's doctor has said that there is nothing more medically that can be done to cure him or her. But with the help of hospice, where a nurse is available 24/7, and she has access to the medical director, the medical doctor, 24/7, your loved one will be kept as comfortable as possible, for as long as possible, to be able to enjoy their life as much as possible. That is always the goal. And you'll have the support of other hospice staff. For example, you may have an aide And aides can come in, they can give baths, they can shave, they can help change the beds. Sometimes they can throw in a load of laundry. And you'll have a social worker. Now, a social worker is really good for just providing a listening ear and encouragement, but she's also good to be able to help if you have some kind of a legal need, like maybe you need to discuss with someone whether or not you want to sign a do not resuscitate. Or sometimes you might have a need, a resource that you don't know how to get, and your social worker can help you. And of course, you'll be assigned a chaplain. And I can tell you that as a chaplain, one of the things I do the most is just listen. Listen and encourage, provide opportunities for family and for the patient to share memories, to share feelings, to learn that it is okay, whatever they're feeling, whatever they're experiencing. Now, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, patients actually get so much better when they're on hospice that they're discharged from hospice because they no longer need it. But even if that is not the case with your loved one, hospice can be a wonderful resource and someone that God has provided. But here's what I'd like you to hear today. Whether it's hospice you end up dealing with, or just providing care to someone who at this time can no longer do for themselves what has to be done for daily and healthy living, you cannot do it alone. And if you try, you will end up failing your loved one, your family, your friends, yourself. I've seen this happen with devastating results. I don't say that to scare you. I say it because it's a reality. You will need help to provide the best care for your loved one, your family, and yourself. And if you really think about it, you know that's the truth. Think about all you do, all you feel responsible for. You may be a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a friend, an employee, a pastor's wife, a church member. You cook, you clean, you make sure your children get to whatever meeting or sport or lesson they need to go to. You do the laundry, you buy groceries, you prepare meals, you make phone calls to encourage, to check up on, to provide information, to organize meetings. You keep up with family members and friends who need to know that you're okay and that they're okay and that you're there for each other if needed. Some of you may be working from home right now as your office is closed to all but a few employees. You may even be supervising your children's schooling, doing homeschooling, or making sure that they're getting all that they need as they're learning online at home. And now there is a new and oftentimes time-consuming responsibility, taking care of a sick loved one. And with all that, there is still one more little item called taking care of yourself. Now, I say little item because that is usually how we treat it. We put ourselves last after we've done everything else for everyone else that needs to be done. And then we might think about taking just a little bit of time for ourselves. But then we usually feel guilty because really, is there ever a time when there's not one more thing that needs to be done? So we put down that book for a minute, or we get up from our chair where we were planning to rest, maybe take a 10-minute nap. We put those things down, promising ourselves we'll get right back to it. And at the end of the day, we realize we never did take that time for ourselves. But we promise ourselves we will tomorrow. And we all know what happens tomorrow. The same thing all over again. You know, I truly believe God is in control. And while I may not believe that God's perfect will was necessarily for someone I love to get sick or no longer be able to function as they used to, I do believe that God brings us some of His greatest blessings wrapped up in ways we would never choose or anticipate. But He is always with us, and He always cares, and He always wants us to learn to trust Him more. And He will never ask of us more than we can do. His grace is sufficient. So if you really want to do the very best job at this ministry that God has given you for this time, here are some suggestions. Pray. Seek advice from the experts, whether it's physical advice, mental, emotional, whatever. Seek advice from the experts, from those who are most equipped to handle our questions. Ask and trust God for wisdom to make the right choices. Seek the prayers of others. Spend time with God in His Word, even if you can only do this for 5 minutes when you are alone. This will be your lifeline. These are all things you already know, and you do it. And then here are a few more suggestions I offer for those who are families I work with in hospice. Prioritize, and let your family help you do this. Sit down with them, especially with your husband or a best friend, an adult child, or even a teenage child. List all the things you do, and don't skip any. List all the things that have to be done, because there are some. And then ask for their help in prioritizing what must be done and what might not have to be done. You know, I remember a poem hanging on the wall of the recovery room when I had one of my babies. It went something like this. Cooking and cleaning can wait till tomorrow. For babies grow up, I've learned to my sorrow. So settle down, cobwebs, dust, go to sleep. I'm rocking my baby, and babies don't keep. The lesson was that as a brand new mother, I could spend my time trying to get everything done to perfection. But I might miss the time I could have spent holding, loving, rocking, and bonding with my baby. Time that I would never get back if I chose to spend it on housework. Housework will never go away, but baby time would. And now God has given you a similar opportunity that may never come again. An opportunity to spend time with your loved one in a way you haven't had for a very long time, and maybe never before. This is not the time to demand perfection of yourself. It isn't even the time to demand you try to get everything done. This is a time to sit beside someone, hold their hand, and love them through working, through touching them, just your presence, sometimes even silence. Sharing memories, sharing blessings, talking about the life values you both hold. Maybe baring your heart to them as you never have before. Asking them what's been important in their life. Is there something still left undone that you can help them complete? Do they have fears, regrets, wishes, needs? And what are the things that you have left unsaid, that you've needed to say to them but never felt you could? Perhaps your own fears or regrets, wishes not yet voiced or completed. These are important things to share and to talk about. and you may never have that opportunity again. If you've ever read Winnie the Pooh, and you probably have if you have children, you know there is a lot of wisdom to be gained from Pooh and his friends. And one bit of wisdom that I hope you will remember is from a short conversation between Pooh and his friend Piglet. Piglet. "Pooh," he whispered. Pooh. "Yes, Piglet?" Piglet. "Nothing," taking Pooh's paw. "I just wanted to be sure of you." One thing I've discovered through my work is that the one that you are there for is often feeling more guilty than you will ever know for needing you. And they may honestly wonder, perhaps like Piglet wondered, more than you can realize if you really love them enough to forgive them for needing you so badly, for needing your time and your presence, your patience and your understanding, when they have nothing to give back. And they may be just like Piglet. They need to hold your hand. They need you to reach out and hold their hand, just to be sure of you, because they feel so undeserving of you. So how do you find that time to do everything and be there to hold their hand? You do it by allowing others to help you. Most of us are not good at doing that. We want to believe we can do it all. We believe it's our responsibility and not someone else's. We believe that even though people offer to help, they really don't want to, or they don't have time. We believe they have enough to do without taking on our needs. So when they ask, "How can we help?" we say, "I'm doing fine," as I cry at night because I've not been as patient or kind as I wanted to be, as I'm feeling like a terrible person because I got mad at my loved one who had called me for the umpteenth time to do something. But I don't tell them that. I just say, "I'm doing fine. I don't need your help." We say, "We're good," as my husband and I find less and less time to talk about anything, because all I do every day, all day, is take care of that person I'm responsible for, leaving me no time for my husband and myself, or my children and myself. But we say, "We're good." Or if someone calls asking what can they do to help, we say, "Can't think of a thing I need," as I look at the laundry piled up, waiting to be washed. Or I'm furiously thinking as I'm talking to them, "What can I make for supper?" knowing that I'll probably be interrupted a dozen times while I try to make it. And while I'm on the phone telling that person I don't need a thing, I'm writing in the dust on the table, "Help me, I'm drowning." We all know what I'm saying is true. We don't accept help well. But this is what you need. First of all, you need to find time to just sit, to bask in God's love for you, to cry out to God, but also to wait quietly, letting the Holy Spirit minister to your needy and tired soul. Follow the command of Psalm 37:7, where we're told, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him." And of Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and let God's word just wrap itself around you, around your soul, your mind, your spirit, and your very tired body. Now is a good time to go back and review the many wonderful promises that have proven so precious to you in difficult times. And when your loved one is anxious and distressed, this is something you can do for them too. You know, many times I've sat at a bedside of a patient and I've just read from the Psalms or other passages that I found especially meaningful to me in difficult times. Or sometimes I pick up their Bible, things that are beside the bedside, and I look through for things that they've underlined, things that have helped them in times that were very difficult, and I read it for them. Not only will this be a precious time for them, it will be a time of sanctuary and rest for you also, as you just let God work in your soul. Then take the time to breathe, to get away for a whole day, or at least part of a day, to take a bath, to sit and just allow God to work in you. You know, even God rested on the seventh day, and we're created in His image. We need that rest. And another thing we need someone to hear us, to be able to hear us say it all, to be able to be honest about our tears of frustration or anger, sadness or fear, to hear us say it all. We need to have someone tell us that we are okay. We're loved. We are a wonderful person, doing a very difficult job, doing the best you can with God's help and the help of others. You need to hear that you are a good wife, a good mother, a good daughter, a wonderful and dearly loved daughter of God. We can tell all that to God, and we do, and we know that He hears and understands. But we also need human affirmation. God created us that way. You know, if He hadn't created us that way, God wouldn't have sent Paul a Barnabas. If you have a Barnabas in your life, trust her. If you don't have one, perhaps it's time to ask God to lead you to one. I can tell you from experience as a chaplain, if you don't get this opportunity to be honest, to talk, to share your feelings, to take time to be away just for a time as you allow someone else to share the burden. If you don't do this, you will not be able to be the person, the caregiver you want to be. You will not only let your loved one down, you will let yourself down. You need to be humble enough to admit your weakness, your humanity, your very real and sometimes ugly feelings and thoughts, and then to receive not only God's gift of grace and forgiveness, but also to receive your husband's, your friends, your Barnabas's gift of grace and forgiveness. More than ever, you need God during this time. You need others. And when we don't allow people to really know us, to hear us, to help us, to love us and care for us, we not only rob ourselves of a blessing, we rob them of a blessing too. God has allowed you at this time in your life to be put in a place of weakness, neediness, and even human frailty and failure. Perhaps to remind you of your need for Him, but also to learn that being real means admitting to weakness and then finding grace in unexpected ways and places. And someday, having learned and experienced that gift of giving grace and mercy from God and from others, you will be able to offer it to someone else who needs it in the future.